We welcome in Jason Jones of The Athletic joining us here. So we determined here, fellas. I think we've got the two now. Jason, I know your job title has changed a little bit at The Athletic, but we've got the two longest tenured Kings reporters right here.
I think Cunningham has us beat.
Sean does have us beat.
Oh,
but he covers other things, and he's not.
Give me Sean Cunningham on the phone, please, because that just.
Yeah, he doesn't write like Jason and I do or have in the past, but yeah, he's
there every game
since 2003. Since 2003.
Jason, do you have any? We was asking James a minute ago with the team being at 3-3, Utah coming up, another game against New Orleans here in Sacramento. Do any concerns? Do you have any concerns with the team so far?
I think just kind of waiting for DeAaron to look more like DeAaron. But I don't think that's a major, like, oh my, we got to, crack the glass because of an emergency. I mean, they're 3-3, and with the schedule they've had, I think you go into this and think, you're seeing Phoenix on the road, Dallas on the road, you're seeing the Warriors, you're at Portland, you're hosting Utah. I think 3-3 is not a horrible place for them to be in at this point, especially, I think, because they've gotten better enough defensively they can overcome DeAaron not getting 25 points. Whereas I think even yesterday's game, a game like that last season, they lose by 20. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think you've seen some improvement. It's really small sample size, but I think there's enough to at least be encouraged about the direction they're headed.
Let me ask Jason. I was waiting until Jason got here because I want to get both of your guys' outlook on this. I've been pretty hard on DeAaron Fox today. Last Monday I was as well after the Warriors game. And I continue to say it's because of the expectations I have for him. I expect a lot out of DeAaron Fox because I think he's that talented. And I look at the start of the season, and I think he's not going to be like this all year long. Like, he's not going to average 18 for the season. I think he'll get up to 22, something like that, 7, 8 assists. But I look at games like Friday against Utah, last Friday against Utah, the Warriors game yesterday against Dallas. And I don't look at DeAaron as some kind of, scrub or, or middling player. Those games are unacceptable to me. They're unacceptable for a player the caliber of DeAaron Fox, in my opinion. 14 points, and we could talk about the Dallas game yesterday with the 3-point shooting, which is horrific from everybody on the team. But you're going to have games like that. And I feel if you've got a guy, if you've got just these guys come to mind, a Dame Lillard, a Steph Curry, guys like that, all-stars. As bad as the Kings played, they were there for their guy to bring them home yesterday and win a game on the road. And he didn't do it. And is that being too harsh on DeAaron to say, hey, I said verbatim, I'm not going to run for it. I said yesterday the game was garbage. 14 points, 4 assists. That's a garbage game from DeAaron Fox, and it's unacceptable. Is that too much? Are my expectations too high for him? Or is that about right? We'll start with you, James. What you think?
Well, I'll tell you this. Jason Jones and I rarely agree on anything at all. Like, we've known each other for a long time, and there's not a lot that we agree on. But I think, like what he said earlier, like, it's just early season. He's going to be just fine. And the weight of the world is on him a little bit. He knows that he's expected to pick it up and take over in that situation. But that's not always how the game goes. You get into a game and all of a sudden it gets mucked up and there are no running lanes for you to go in. And, like, in a perfect world, he would have had a lot more than 14 points. But, there's also a perfect world where Buddy Hield wouldn't brick threes like that. And Harrison Barnes could hit his shots, and, Tyrese Halliburton wouldn't fade away, and miss wide open shots. So, like, look, I think you're allowed a couple of stinkers. You also have to remember that his salary just jumped $20 million a year. He knows exactly that number. He knows what this means. And I think there is a little bit of pressure on him to succeed and to finally deliver this team. So I think he'll be just fine. But a lot, again, I'll say it again, I think a lot of it the mental mistakes that I've seen from him, that's just not typically him. That's not what I've come to know from him as a player, and I think he'll figure it out.
I think he'll figure it out, but I think to me the most concerning thing is just you look at the free throw percentage again, and it's like, come on, I don't think it's unfair to expect your max player who's a point guard to shoot better than 60% from the free throw line. I don't think it's unfair to expect him to make more than 17% of his threes. And then again, also, because it's the first 6 games, if this happened from game 40 to 46, it might look different. You say, okay, he's in a rut, but whenever you start off like this, it looks way worse. And I'm gonna trust that his track record has shown that he'll figure it out. He'll pick it up. He's smart. He realizes he's not playing well enough. He knows that. I mean, he'll probably be the first one to tell you that 14 points is not good enough. And this team is not good enough to overcome him putting up. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but they can't overcome him putting up Mike Conley and Memphis numbers. He doesn't have Zebo and Marc Gasol. They can't overcome him going out and getting 14, especially if you're only getting 10, 12 from Tyrese, or Harrison Barnes isn't Superman and getting you 30. They need him to be, because you mentioned Dame, you mentioned, Steph. Those are all-star superstars, and he's not there yet. And for them to get to where they want to be, he's got to get closer and closer to that. And right now he's not there. And part of it is just because, hey, I think it's early. I still people were mentioning too, you still wonder, different guys with COVID takes longer for them to look like themselves again. Could that be a thing? Because even at the end of last season, he was tested negative, but even he said, hey, I didn't feel right. Still didn't feel right. So, I mean, like I said, 6 games. If this is game 25 and he's averaging like 15 points and 5 assists, okay, we got a major problem. Something's wrong. But it's just funny that I've seen people who went from we can't trade DeAaron to we should have traded him for Ben Simmons.
That's crazy.
For a game.
That's
I mean, I think you would hope that at this point we would all realize that you don't make drastic, conclusions after 5 or 6 games. Weren't the Orlando Magic really good after like 7 games last season?
They were.
I mean, you would think at this point no one would make drastic judgments off of 5 or 6 games, but hey, what fun is that?
That's right. We're reactionary. We got radio shows to do. We got tweets to fire off. We've got podcasts to record. We've got all that stuff to do. It's a 49ers Monday brought to you by Gilmore Heating, Air, and Plumbing. You get more with Gilmore, but we're talking Kings basketball with 2 of the best. Our 1320 Kings insider James Ham with us, and Jason Jones of The Athletic with us here as well. But you both have mentioned this. The fact that the team is 3-3, James, does it speak to the team at all that they've won a handful of games, they've been in all of them, and DeAaron's not playing well?
Yeah, I think that's a great sign, especially let's throw in Terence Davis, throw in Halliburton. Like, not everybody has had a good run here. So I think it's very promising that this is where they are right now, and that you can see just a huge pathway for success. I think Buddy had one off game, but it was against Utah, one truly off game. And he's going to have some of those. But I think if you look at the trio of Harrison and Buddy Hield and Rashawn Holmes, they're bringing it every single night. And it's your young guys that are struggling a little bit. And then I think you're getting, while fans don't get it with Mo Harkless, you're getting really solid minutes there. We're seeing guys like Tristan Thompson and Alex Len step up. Again, I'll point to the fact that they're all veterans. And so the veteran players who know who they are, know what they are in the league, they're succeeding. The other guys are having, they're hit and miss. And you should expect some of that. These are growing pains. But yeah, I think 3-3 at this point, if you really looked at it and you were betting this thing, you would probably have guessed 2-4, maybe even, 1-5, if you really were honest with yourself about what this team was up against in their first week of the season. And the fact that they're 3-3, I think, is solid.
You know where I'm going, Casey, because James brought up Mo Harkless. And so it's like, okay, I understand I think he's very solid. I like Mo Harkless a lot. I question whether long term this can be his role. You mentioned solid minutes from him there, James. Is this sustainable, having 2 to 6 points from your starting four for 82 games?
Yeah, I think it is. It's sustainable to have that type of player in that type of role. I'm slightly concerned that his inability to consistently hit the three does collapse the lane with the starting group. You already have one non-shooter in Rashawn Holmes, although he's shooting 100% from three at this point. Yeah, and then you also have DeAaron Fox, who at this point is a non-shooter, and you have Tyrese Halliburton shooting 30% from three. So there are some things that are missing here. But if this thing is firing the way that it should fire, if Fox is attacking, Holmes is your pick and roll guy, your setup guy is Halliburton, and your knockdown 3-pointer shooters, Halliburton and Barnes, then I really do think that you can live with Mo Harkless as your starting four. I'll just point out that Mo Harkless was on the 2018 Western Conference. The Portland Trailblazers went all the way to the Western Conference Finals. He started. Every time you took him off the floor, they just got blown out. And then you put him back on the floor and he stabilized everything. He's a guy that just stuffs a stat sheet in a weird way, and he helps you win games. And like, some people might not believe that, but Davion Mitchell has had some real stinkers offensively as well. But you see how he impacts the game. I think it's because he's out in front of everything. He's the guard that's defending the guard that everyone's watching with the ball. Mo Harkless is doing crazy things off the ball that people just aren't paying attention to, that's making this team better. And, if you give him some time to settle in, I think he'll be all right.
And I'll say this too. If we're going to sit around and worry about Mo Harkless, we've got much bigger issues if you're a Sacramento Kings. If your biggest concern is
don't judge how I spend my weekends, Jason.
I just look at the Kings. I look at the priority, the thing. Like I said, Mo's a know-how guy, and the Kings have not in the recent years have had enough guys to just know what to do. If his shot's not falling, he still knows that. That doesn't mean I don't play defense. That doesn't mean I don't communicate. I mean, he's still valuable to what they're doing, and this goes. About the roster. If you don't play Mo Harkless, what do? Do you put Marvin Bagley back out there? Do you go with do you start Tristan Thompson? Do you go with three guards to start? I don't think Mo Harkless is going to be make or break them this season. I don't think that's going to be, to me, a bigger issue. You got to look at DeAaron, Tyrese, Buddy. I mean, to me, before I get to the point where I'm going, damn, Mo Harkless is not giving them what they need.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing to what Jason's saying there. We watched Tristan Thompson in the game against Dallas, right? Tristan Thompson was so incredibly good. He was physical. He bullied Willie Cauley-Stein and whoever else they put out there in the post. But you look at the end stats and you're like, man, how did Tristan Thompson only have 5 rebounds? And if you watch the game, the reason why Tristan Thompson had 5 rebounds is because he cleared every single player out of the key and allowed Harrison Barnes to walk in and grab one rebound after another, Buddy Hield to grab one rebound after another. Yeah. It's not always about the stats. A lot of times it's about the little things that they do that you don't see and you don't really even realize are happening. And like, again, the Kings out rebounded Dallas by a ton, and half the game they're running 3-guard sets. So the way you do that is by having guys clearing out and screening their man or other people's men and keeping the lane clear so other people can go get their rebounds. So again, it's about the little things that these guys are doing that I think it doesn't even really matter what their stats look like at the end of the game. They're in there and they're not making mistakes, they're not killing you, and they're actually helping you defensively.
In the past,
well, I feel judged.
Had guys crying about their stats in that case. You would have had years ago, it would have been like, well, I'm out there, but I didn't get my rebound. So a little bit of that's good for this team.
Yeah. Jason, let me ask you this, and James, you can jump in as well on this. But I look at Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield is just from a macro level, just like decent start to the season. He's been doing all right. But to me, it feels like it's kind of as simple when you talk about whether or not Buddy Hield had a good game about his shot selection. We've talked about it a number of different times, but you go through the game log, and it seems like the good games that he has, he's mixing up threes and attacking the basket, or at least mid-range or floaters or whatever the case may be. The bad games are the ones where it's literally, what did he take last night? 13 shots, 12 of them were threes. And that's the formula, it seems like. When he's having a bad game, he's exclusively on the three-point line. When he's having a good game, he's had a little bit more of a mixture of the two. Is this something that I know they notice it. They notice everything. But is it brought up to the point of like, hey, buddy, get it, Coach Walton and all these other guys, get some twos? Because every time we hear them talk, it's like, we just want Buddy, if he's open, just let it go, launch it. And it's like, I understand that, but it seems like he gets in much more of a flow when, at the very least, he starts off attacking the basket from two or mid-range or anything like that. You think it's something that's discussed, or they just kind of say, hey, we just let Buddy do Buddy coming off the bench and hope that he's on that day?
Well, I don't think they let Buddy do Buddy. Buddy does Buddy.
You have said that.
There's a big difference. Trust me, there's things that Buddy does that no one told Buddy to do. Buddy will go out there and Buddy's gonna be Buddy. So there's going to be some good and some bad with that. And trust me, they in terms of the threes, catch and shoot, yes. Buddy holding the ball going ISO, no. Contested threes, no. If you can cut to the basket and get a layup, yes. These are all things that are discussed. What happens on the court doesn't always, you may not believe that sometimes, because you'd be like, why would he keep doing that? But that's the reason why you like Buddy in a reserve role, because on those nights when he's like that, you can say, you know what, you're not getting 35 minutes to do that. We can scale it back some. And last season they kind of felt like, what, well, he's not doing exactly what we want, but what's our option? We got to leave him out there. And and the thing about Buddy is, if he's on the court, you've got to account for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he does provide that even on those nights where he's not on, because we've seen him miss a bunch of shots in a row, and then we've seen when he's on, it's a thing of beauty. When he's in rhythm, that thing is, the net's not moving. So go back to what your original point was. They definitely discuss all these things with Buddy, but what you discuss with Buddy and what Buddy actually does can be two different things.
You live by the buddy, you die by the buddy. That's what he's saying. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. When he's on, he's just an extreme weapon. But in each of the last 3 games down the stretch, he has made egregious errors. He's turned the ball over. We watched it in the Dallas game where, they were right in it. He turned the ball over, and then he tracked the guy down and stole the ball back. And then, again, he was about to get trapped again where he would have turned it over again, but he found Fox, who missed the 3. My concern with Buddy is, I think last season they used him in the perfect way possible. He was a low usage player. His usage was around 20%. This season, his usage is up around 27%. That's too much. That means he's dribbling way too much. And then his assists per game got up to 3.6. Right now he's at 1.5. So he's averaging an all-time high in turnovers. He's averaging an all-time low in assists. His usage is way up when you have a whole bunch of guards. And it's not that I think that Buddy is trying to do this. Maybe he is, because he wants to be, the star off the bench. But I think he's taking the air out of guys like Terence Davis and even a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, and some nights out of the air out of a guy like Davion Mitchell. He's just sucking the air out of the room by shooting so much. I don't want to see him shooting 14 3-pointers a game. To me, that, unless he's just out there wide open in a corner, then that's fine. If they're not going to guard him, but that's just not the case. He needs to get back to what made him so good last year, which was finding, Rashawn Holmes on a couple of pick and rolls, finding some of his teammates here and there. I just think it's a lot of me stuff right now. And I want to see Terence Davis wake up and get some of the success. When you get 2 shots in a game, that's not going to happen. He's not going to pull out of his funk unless you intentionally focus on him getting out of it. And right now, he's just not going to get that opportunity because Buddy's chucking every time he sees it.
That's 13-20 Kings insider James Ham with us, along with Jason Jones of The Athletic here on D-Lo and KC. You brought up Terence Davis. Terence Davis, we've seen his minutes shrink. Is this a product of just missing shots, or is he not doing the other stuff out there on the floor that he needs to do to be an integral part of this team? Is he not doing the Mo Harkless things that you were talking about a few moments ago to stay out on the court? And James, Jason,
it'd be a combo of both. The shot's not falling. They got a lot of guards. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're struggling, they've actually got a lot of different options they can look at. And part of it is at this stage, 6 games in, you're still figuring out. You know, they may not have figured out the lineup that Terence fits best with. You know, there's still, you know, part of it is figuring out what Buddy has to do differently. You know, part of it is figuring out, you know, maybe Terence plays better with Davion than he does with I mean, there's a lot to figure out still, but the way they are now, if Terence is struggling and you still got to get DeAaron going, Tyrese going, Davion, Buddy, that's 4 guards already. So, and it's not. I mean, the big picture is not a bad thing because you've got options. Whereas in the past, you had no options. If a guy was Buddy was in a rut, Buddy was going to be in a rut and sort that rut out in X amount of games. So I think I firmly believe he'll find his spot. He'll get going again. It's just like I said, it's 6 games, and you're mixing and matching. I think there'll be lineups they'll play. Like I said, when you play a Houston Rockets type team, there'll be lineups where you're going to need him more minutes than other nights. Mm-hmm. So I think I would be surprised if his minutes stayed where they've been recently, just because over the course of 82 games, things are going to change. I don't think he'll struggle all year. Guys are going to go up and down, and I think that's kind of the I don't make it sound like this team is like the 96 Bulls roster, but the roster has enough depth now to the point where if Terence is struggling, it's not so devastating that you say they're going to lose 10 in a row because one guy is off. And in the past couple of years, one guy is off, it threw everything off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when I look at Terence, when he hits his first shot, he's money. Like he's just, you just let him chuck. He's always reminded me, I've told you guys this, of Bobby Jackson. It doesn't matter if they're good shots or not. If he hits his first shot, then it's on. And he hasn't had that happen yet, where he's hit his first shot and started to build some momentum. Mm-hmm. And look, if you look at the way this roster is constructed, it was very clear that it was constructed for Buddy and Marvin not to be there. And so Terence would have had a completely different role. He would have had maybe not what you're seeing from Buddy, but he would have had a role like that where he was allowed 12 shots a game and allowed to shoot out of something like this. And, again, I think he can create for others. He's better at going to the rim than Buddy is. He's a very competent NBA player, but we're just seeing this, if he's not on, then it's kind of a train wreck. And so I think that they're pulling the plug on him pretty quick. I mean, I don't even think, did he even show back up in the second half of the last game? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had like a 3-minute, like a 2-minute stretch in the third quarter. And I was like, well, this will determine if he plays in the fourth quarter or not. And he didn't do anything.
I saw when you tweeted that. Like grand opening, grand closing. He's out.
He missed a couple of shots. I was like, well, we'll try again on Tuesday.
And this Kings team has so much depth as far as scoring depth. We talked about the depth. There's a lot of different types of depth, but this team, they've got a lot of guys that can fill up the basket. And if you're not hitting your shots, then, someone else is going to. And so I think for right now, Buddy is that guy that you've had on your team for, he has a track record with Walton and he trusts him, even if he does make some mistakes down the stretch. And so he's going to have that longer leash to shoot his way out of a slump, or even in a game, or he's missed his first 6 threes. You still think number 7, number 8, number 9 are going down because that's who he is. I don't think Terence has that sort of leeway with the coaching staff yet.
In the last 3 games, the defense has been good enough to where you're not going to say we're going to take Buddy out to get Terence out there to help with the defense. Mm-hmm. Now if they were struggling defensively as well, but just last season level struggles, you might be able to make the argument that you take Buddy out when he's struggling and go with Terence. But right now, I mean, they're getting enough to where you don't have to maybe go that route just yet.
You heard it here first earlier. Jesse put this in the tweet. Jason Jones, quote, "The Kings are as deep as the 96 Bulls." Unquote.
That's what I heard.
On a tweet.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
There's a T-shirt being made.
There it is. I heard that.
I got an NBA question for you too, real quick. And look, this is just my opinion, but you guys are free to agree with it. Luka's unbearable, right? He's terrible to watch. I have no enjoyment watching Luka Doncic play basketball. The wine, and people try to lump him in with Harden. Look, Harden had his own thing going on. I don't remember it being this bad with James Harden. This is nasty. And he can play. He can ball. Don't get it twisted. The man's got skills that has nothing to do with it. But it's not enjoyable to watch him crying all game long.
There was a clip that anytime the Kings played the Houston Rockets, that would resurface by the Rockets fans of me just going at Harden. I think it's the same thing. Like again, like the 2000 Kings, it was beautiful basketball. It was such a joy to watch the ball moving. Watching Steph Curry is like watching like an artist do his thing. It's so amazing to watch. Watching somebody dribble the air out of the basketball is so painful for me to watch that, so that's what they remind me so much of each other. But at the same time, like Harden expects things. Luka just yells and screams the whole game. Like he is unbearable. I'm with you. I don't want to say that like, hey, I mean, the Kings would be better with Luka without any question. I'm not going to be silly and say something like that, but covering him for 82 games would be rough. Like, I mean, you'd win more, so I guess it wouldn't be that rough. But like for me, watching that, Cousins did a lot of that too. But like with Luka, it's almost like a sense of entitlement. Where with DeMarcus, it was like being disrespected, and with Luka, it's like there's this weird sense of entitlement that just is really hard to watch.
What does he sound like, Damian?
Don't touch me! Get this man Davion away from me! That's how I envision Luka.
I won't call Luka unbearable to watch because the actual game action, I enjoy watching him play. I don't, I don't care about, is he dribbling the ball a lot? Yeah, but I'd rather see him out there dribbling than him giving the ball to Willie Cauley-Stein to dribble. So, facts. I'm fine with watching the way he plays. The way he goes at the officials, he should have about 45 techs. I mean, the leash that he gets is amazing.
We've seen it twice already.
Yeah, and I thought peak Draymond was bad.
He's
way worse.
Yeah.
I remember watching when Cuz was on the team. I watched Draymond yell at the ref from baseline to baseline. DeMarcus said something and got a check just like that. And after the game, he said, "You see that? Draymond was never. I think Luka makes a shot, he wants a foul. He misses a shot, he wants a foul. He misses a free throw, he wants to complain about something. I mean, it's just on and on and on. And it's, but that being said, hey, when you win more than you lose, people will tolerate things a little bit differently. But yeah, they got to start at least calling techs on him. Like for every, example, I think whatever a DeAaron would do to get a tech, Luka's got to do that 5 times to get one. And it's just so blatantly obvious and bad because I've watched him repeatedly just go at the ref and they're like, okay.
Well, we watched it last Sunday with Draymond just yelling. And like one possession, he went from the official at the baseline, he ran over to the other official, and then he hit the third official, and he was yelling and screaming at them. And then a couple of minutes later, Rashawn Holmes said something was demonstrative and got a tech. And I'm like, hang on, Draymond hasn't got anything yet. And then finally, Draymond got one late, but he should have been out of the game at that point. I remember years ago, I was in the locker room, and DeMarcus, Jason knows this, DeMarcus would do this. He'd look at you, and he'd go like this. And you go over like, hey, what's up? And he goes, hey, did I deserve that tech? And I'm like, look, man, like that play specifically, no, I don't think you deserve the tech. But the previous 5 plays, you yelled and screamed at the officials the whole time. So while you probably didn't deserve it for what happened in that moment, you deserved it for all the other stuff that you were doing. And he goes, okay, that's fair. And so, like, I just don't get it. Like, how these guys get away with that. Like, just stop it. Like, it would be more enjoyable for all of us if it didn't happen. So tee him up early. Like, don't do it again. If you want to be that way, like, shut it down for the whole game, because then he's got 1 tech. He does it one more time and he's out. Like, so, like, that's where I would be if I were the officials. I wouldn't even want to hear it. I mean, as much as we have the rules of emphasis, where you can't do unnatural moves. How about that? How about make that a point of emphasis for the start of the NBA season?
And if James
doesn't apply to Luka. If
James is covering the Mavericks, how would Luka call him over in the locker room?
I'd have probably with Martini, and I would go
James, come hither, James.
I heard what you said about me.
Yeah.
I don't know why Luka sounds like that to me.
Luka, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. That's what
I have no idea. But James, we appreciate you for being with us. As always, you'll be back much more later on this week. Jason, thank you, my brother. We appreciate you for spending time with us. That's Jason Jones.
The Fiend. I like that.
What'd you say?
Fiend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see his Halloween costume? He was the Fiend.
Oh yeah, he looked good. Yeah.
I've been saving. I was gonna go for Bray Wyatt a couple of years ago. Then I couldn't. I grew the beer out and everything. I forgot what I was gonna have. Me and my kids be, the Wyatt family.
That's
and
solid.
Then I forgot what happened. But yeah, I was gonna be Bray. My oldest kid was gonna be Braun Strowman, and then the 2 little ones were gonna be Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. I had it all planned out, and then it never came together, but I got the Fiend. So
just like WWE, never came together.
Never did.